Okay, so today we talked about how to convert a fraction, decimal into percent. They are all equivalent and all equal to one another. So you need to be able to convert a decimal to a fraction, or a fraction to a decimal to a percent to a decimal. And we can keep that triangle going. But let's go ahead and, thinking about triangles, let's make out this little chart that will show us how to turn each one into one another. So I'll just make me a little chart. So we have my fraction, we have my decimal, and then we have my percent. So in this case, in order to turn a fraction into a decimal, I would just divide or do TiVo. Okay? From a decimal to a percent, and we're going to go more to this in detail, I would just simply move my decimal 2 times to the right. And then percent to a fraction, I would just turn my percent to a decimal and then turn my decimal into my fraction. And let's go the opposite way. So in this case, if I'm going from a fraction to a percent, so going back the other way, I would simply just do the opposite. So I would turn my fraction into a decimal and then my decimal into a percent. So again, either way, I'm going to have to turn my fraction into a decimal or my percent into a decimal to go to the other one. From my percent to my decimal, I'm going to move it 2 times to the left. And from a decimal to a fraction, I'm going to look at my place value. And we're just going to walk through each one really quickly. Okay, so let's look at an example for, let's say if I have 58, or 5/6. And I want to turn this into a decimal and a percent. So first of all, I need to convert this into a decimal by doing my top in and my bottom out. Top goes in, bottom goes out. 0, placeholder, 0. How many times can 6 go into 50? It goes in there 8 times. 8 times 6, that's 48. I have 2 left over. Bring down my 0. And it goes in there 3 times. And it's just going to keep on repeating, so we can really stop right there. So we know that 5/6 as a decimal is 8.3. Now, in order to turn that decimal into a percent, again, we're just going to move it over 2 times to the right. Sorry, we're going this way. So 2 times to the right. 1, 2, so 83%. Let's go ahead, let's look at another one. Let's say if I'm given, let's say 90%. And I want to turn it into a fraction and a decimal. So it's going to be the same process. Let's go ahead and convert this into a decimal first because it'll be a little bit easier. So in this case, I do not have a decimal. So anytime we have a whole number, my decimal is going to be at the end. So I simply add my imaginary decimal and I'm going to move it 2 times to the left. 1, 2. So in this case, my decimal would be 0.90. Now, in order to turn this into a fraction, I'm going to look at the placeholder or the place value. In this case, I can either use my 9 or my 0, because remember my 0 is a placeholder, but I'm going to just say that it ends in my 100 spot. So 9 over, or 90 over 100, and then I can reduce that down by 10, and I get 9/10. Let's look at one more, and then we'll go over some practice problems. So let's say we start with a decimal this time at 58 hundredths. Okay, so again, 58 hundredths. Let's turn this into a percent. I'm gonna do so by again moving it 2 times to the right. 1, 2, 58%. And then from there, I want to turn my percent into a fraction. Again, I'm going to just look at where my fraction or my place value is. Here goes my tenths. Here goes my hundredths. So it'll be 58 over 100. And of course, if I can, you would reduce it down. So in this case, I'll reduce it by 2. By 2, I get 50. And let's do 58 divided by 2. That goes in there 2 times. That's 4. That's 1. And I get 29.